Good evening, South Windsor, and welcome to the Town Council regular meeting of Tuesday, June 20th, 7 p.m. Could we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councillor Evans?
Here.
Councillor Kabaski?
Here.
Councillor Lopez?
Here.
Councillor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Pendleton?
Present.
Deputy Mayor King?
Here.
Councillor Kozakowski? Councillor Gamble?
Here.
Councillor Leidecker?
Okay, we're all set. Okay, we're good. Moving on to the mayor's comments. Believe it or not, I don't have any comments this evening except for summer is coming up. Juneteenth took place yesterday, and we're wrapping up the month of June here. And we'll be going into July 1st soon, which will make our new budget put into place. So I think that's pretty much it. But summer school is out. Congratulations to the children. I attended the graduation along with other council members. A fantastic graduation. The Board of Ed did an exceptional job. 330 students graduated from South Windsor High School this year. They did a fantastic job. Congratulations to all. And I think that's pretty much it. And we'll move on. And we have the Councillor Evans, the adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor King.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. The only thing that I would like to move is that we do have an executive session that's supposed to be later on, executive session 17A. If we can move that, I understand that Michelle Lipe is actually in an executive session with planning and zoning. So as soon as she comes up, I'd like to move that we suspend until when she gets up here so that we can move the executive session at that particular time. So I don't know when she's going to come, so I can't say what specific number before or after, but the minute that she comes up, I'd like for us to suspend the rules so that we can handle that executive session right then, again, 17A.
Is it, excuse me, aren't there two items associated with that? So you have the executive session item, but then also isn't Michelle Lipe giving a report on fair housing and...
Right. Michelle is the discussion item. So
Yeah.
we'll take her on the agenda once she gets here for the discussion item. And then, we'll put her into the new business. It's the executive session with the planning and zoning attorney that we need to suspend the meeting where we're at and go into executive session. If that's okay with the council, we need flexibility with that.
I would just caution, I don't know how timing is going to jive or not with our meeting, so we'll see. I mean, they may go very late tonight, they may not, I don't know.
Right. But if they tend to come in during our meeting, if they wrap up before we do, then we can accept them with the flexibility. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay? Yep. Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. And now communications and reports from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm going to start with some of the bad news first that I don't have written in my manager's report tonight, but essentially myself and Patty Perry, our finance director, have been working on trying to figure out the budget cap since before we were actually working on our budget. So the way the state statute works, it's either the state put in place a 2.5% budget cap for municipalities year over year, or the rate of inflation, which this last year they've now finally determined at 6.18%. We were pretty close to that, but unfortunately we did miss the 6.18%, and we were at 6.62%. So we missed it by just a little bit, and we're fairly close. That being said, in the past, the state has never tied any revenue obligations to the budget cap until this year. So there could be some impacts related to revenues associated with our MRSA grant, which is the reimbursement for the car tax cap that we receive. Based on some of the estimates that I received from Patty today, we're looking at about a reduction in our revenues of about $237,396. $237,396. That being said, I would say that we've been very conservative in estimating our revenues yearly on a regular basis. And at this red hot moment, I don't believe that we would run a budget deficit in the upcoming fiscal year, but wanted to be as transparent as possible and make sure that all of you were aware of this. I have reached out to our legislative delegation at the state to make them aware as well, and to ask them to do whatever they could potentially do, seeing as South Windsor is an outlier and a good portion of our increases associated with student population increases and other things of that nature. I think it's only appropriate that the state of Connecticut step up to the plate and do what's right. Additionally, as I've said to our state legislators a few times now, I find it troubling that the state of Connecticut thinks they can implement budget caps and tell municipalities how we should and should not spend our money, particularly in a municipality that is fiscally and financially conservative, that is fiscally healthy, and that is in a better fiscal state than the state of Connecticut. So my hope is that they would hear what we're saying, and my hope is that they will take some action to ensure that we're held harmless. We're not 100% sure that this will actually happen at this point yet. There's a lot out there that's kind of unknown, seeing as previous years the state has never really tied any finances or funding connected to these items. But right now, kind of worst case, we're talking worst case scenario. Hopefully things don't end up this way, and hopefully the state of Connecticut realizes that this is probably not a great idea. But I think overall, at the end of the day, we'll be okay financially. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that this is something that's ongoing, that we've been trying to work on for a few months now, in all honesty. So I'll keep you abreast as things transpire, and we'll go from there. So a couple other things that I have in my written report.
Mr. Maniscalco, can we address that first for folks who may have questions with that before we move on to anything else?
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I had a hard time understanding jumping into that conversation. So are you saying that the state tells municipalities there is a cap in which you can raise your municipal budget year over year?
So about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago maybe at the most, the state of Connecticut passed a statute. It's Connecticut General Statute 4-66, I believe it's I(f), basically which implemented a 2.5% cap on municipal budget increases or the rate of inflation. For what, we're not sure, or the rate of inflation. So that's what we were trying to figure out.
So
Some things-
So you said the rate of inflation is what, 6.18?
That's what it was determined to be.
And our budget increase was about 8 point.
Well, no, so not everything is included in the budget cap. So
cars?
some things are included, some things are not. So certain expenditures are included and certain ones are not. So it's not as easy as just saying the whole budget increase, of course.
Okay.
So when you take the things out of our budget that are not included within the cap, we're at a 6.62% increase, whereas the state says we should be at a 6.18.
And so does that impact our, well, yeah. So does that mean we have to cut 0.4% of our of what we're going to spend to get to the cap?
No.
Okay.
No. So essentially what happens is the state of Connecticut has this year, and not done this in previous years, tied the budget cap to revenues that municipalities can receive from the state. So one of the revenue sources that we budgeted for is due to the car tax cap on the mill rate for motor vehicles. I believe it was 32 or 33 something, that if you were over that number in your mill rate, the motor vehicle tax is capped, and then municipalities were made whole by the state surplus, so that way we didn't lose revenue from that scenario. So it saves money for taxpayers on their automobiles, but yet we're made whole. The state has now, from what we're starting to interpret, I can't say 100% yet, but what we're starting to interpret is that the state has tied that municipal revenue sharing fund to the municipal budgetary cap that they put in place.
So net effect is they're giving us less money,
They
which
will
is the
potentially give
effect of
us-
us having to cut somewhere to account for that.
Well, you
less
won't
money.
need
I mean,
to,
because that was budgeted into our budget to spend to make the town run, right?
correct, so you won't need to cut anything yet.
True.
What we have always done is we've conservatively estimated what our revenues are, because we always pass our budget before the state of Connecticut passes theirs. So all of the state of Connecticut revenues are typically fairly conservative, because you just never know what the governor's gonna do, what the Senate's gonna do, what the House is gonna do. And we, unfortunately, due to our charter, have to have our budget in place way before they do. So we do have enough room within the revenue estimates that we put together when we passed our budget that we should be able to account for the $237,000. So we shouldn't have to cut anything.
Okay.
But we will need to keep an eye on it, first of all, because it's something that we probably are owed as a municipality. Secondly, it's something that we don't want to see this become something on a regular basis. And thirdly, we've seen our municipality be an outlier year over year due to increases in population, increases in student enrollment, and as a result of that, we shouldn't be penalized by the state for those sorts of things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Counselor Kubowski, I know you have questions. No? I do. I have a question because I'm thinking about the budget working group, and I'm thinking about, you've been working on this for a few months, but we never heard that we were over the state cap of the 2% or whatever during the budget working group. I would have more than welcomed trying to find a spot to reduce our budget by $237,396 to prevent us from being in this situation if we could.
No, that's
No.
not what you would need to reduce the budget by. You would need to reduce the budget by millions of dollars to get down to a 2.5% increase.
Oh.
That's just what the penalty potentially could be.
That's the penalty?
Yes.
From who?
The state of Connecticut in the loss of revenue that we would receive.
Okay. So we'd have to reduce it by millions to get to that?
To a 2.5%.
Yeah, because we're at 6.62, right?
To get to a 2.5% increase, you would have to reduce it by millions.
That's not even possible.
Correct.
So it wouldn't have made a difference if we had known this or not. That's not even
Correct.
possible.
I
The
mean,
state needs to
maybe
hear us loud and clear.
We were shooting for hitting the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
And I think we got fairly close, but we did not get there because we weren't 100% sure what numbers we would get for the rate of inflation at that time. So,
I know that there was talk about Dr. Carter meeting with the state representatives to look at the state and ask them for more funding for the items that needs to be done due to the increased enrollment for the students, hence the cafeteria at Timothy Edwards. I know that she was going to be meeting with them to ask them about more money for our town. I don't think that ever happened or transpired. Is there any way that it would be effective if we wrote a letter explaining our circumstances that are so unique here in South Windsor in a letter to the state folks and let them know where we sit?
sure.
Can we do that? I don't know how the council feels about that, if we can get a consensus, but I certainly would like them to know our circumstances and our situation here loud and clear from us, and maybe they can give us a hand financially.
I can certainly draft something for all of you to look at your next meeting, if you'd be interested.
If you guys agree to that, consensus on that? writing a vocal letter on where we and who we are and what's happening here, you know, loud and clear directly from us and not just through the grapevine?
Who would, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Mayor, Phil, who would that letter go to? Would it go to the state treasurer? Who would that go to?
I would probably suggest you send it to your state legislators, maybe the governor.
No, yeah, yeah. And maybe the treasurer and maybe anybody who will listen. Yeah,
You could probably copy the Connecticut Council of Municipalities on it,
yeah. Yeah,
because I'm sure, you know, if we do see a turnaround in populations for the state of Connecticut, we won't be the only community who faces a scenario like this.
well, I mean, they need to hear the reality of what's happening here and what we're facing, and don't try to punish us for something that, it's a good thing of what's happening, you know, and we have to be able to afford it. So, thank you. I don't know if we have a consensus on that letter. Yes? Can I get a thumbs up on that letter? Yes?
Well, I'll just
Good?
bring you a draft. I'll bring you a draft to look at, and then.
Right, I
we
mean,
can vote on it.
consensus to get you to do a draft, yes. Okay. Counselor Kubowski, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Maniscalco, the cap, the number that they arrived at for the cap, is there some thought as to why it was done this way? Or is it another one of the state formulas where you have to be an astrophysicist who's worked as an actuary, who has a doctorate in engineering and a mathematics degree to understand what they're trying to push out?
Correct, and they probably hid the answer on the moon, so you gotta go find it up there. Because it's pretty difficult to say that it, you know, maybe at the time that they passed legislation, 2.5% may have been a reasonable number for a budgetary increase at that moment. But given the rate of inflation and the challenges associated with increasing populations and other things that have come through with pandemics and everything else, this is an example of how policy and legislation does not keep up with times, and when done poorly, can have very negative impacts.
It also strikes me as another case of the state feeling it's a one-size-fits-all works for everybody without looking at things on an individual basis.
Correct.
So that's, for a town like ours, that is not helpful at all.
I have to tell you, you just mentioned something, if you don't mind 1 second here. My granddaughter said to me the other night, Nani, I can only probably name 25 towns in Connecticut. And I said, honey, there's 162 towns. She goes, really, that many? She goes, they're just so different from each other. And she doesn't understand why we operate individually. And you're bringing up a good point, how we are separate and we are individual and we are unique and we are different than others, as I pointed out to her in my conversation last night with her. Yes. I mean, if you compare us to Union, you know, you compare us to a tiny little town somewhere else. You can't. Okay, thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Moving on, please.
Okay, so for the rest of my report, the police department will be hosting a national night out. The police department is tentatively planning a national night out event at Nevers Road Park for August 1st, 2023. The event will have a touch-a-truck, ice cream, food, bounce house, music, and giveaways. The purpose of the event is to provide our community, and in particular our youth, the opportunity to get to know our police department and officers so that we can all better partner at keeping our community safe.
Do we have a time for that, Mr. Maniscalco?
I don't have the total time yet, but I do know it's on August 1st.
More information will be forthcoming in July?
It certainly will.
Thank you.
Splash pad construction, all the equipment and permits are set at the site. AquaTurf, which is the subcontractor for splash pad construction, has had delays getting on site. They were originally scheduled to arrive on site mid-May and has been rescheduled to a start date due to various personal reasons. We'd have the contractor now scheduled to be on site Friday, June 16th. And then lastly, summer camp preparations, now that all the students are out of school. Since the Parks and Recreation Department moved to Old Orchard Hill facility at the end of April, the department, along with building maintenance and information technology, have been actively working to make the space function. Some of the preparation work for camp include deep cleaning and painting the rooms, repainting the gym floor lines, moving all the camp equipment and setting it up in the new spaces, installation of the ADA entrance, new bathroom and building signage, installation of air conditioning units, and repairs to the playground space. The camp staff had training during the week of June 3rd and are excited to welcome youth to summer camp starting on Monday, June 19th for the pre-camp week. And I wanted to just recognize all the staff that have been hard at work in not only getting ready for camp, but also moving that entire department to Orchard Hill. And that is all I have to report. If anybody wants to ask any questions, feel free.
Any questions from the council? I have one, Mr. Maniscalco, with the ADA entrance for the old Orchard Hill. Will that allow the whole facility to be ADA compliant at that time? Will they be able to get up from the gym level to the top level?
No.
What would it take, because someone had mentioned, like they did at Eli Terry, to not have steps, but to build a ramp there, where the steps are located, to go from the gym level up to the next level?
I don't know.
What's that?
I don't know offhand.
Can you
It
find
may
out and just give us a?
Yeah, it may be a ramp, but I'm not sure if there's enough room there for a ramp, so it may require a lift, which would require knocking out walls and all kinds of other.
Can you
heavy-duty work.
get back to us there in July, please, with that answer?
I can work on it.
Or sooner, you can send us an email. Thank you. Counselor Evans.
Thank you. I did plan to touch on a bit of what you just brought up with the ADA compliance at Orchard Hill, Old Orchard Hill, new rec, as they're calling it, during my Park and Rec Commission portion on the agenda. But I think, since you brought it up, it's probably a good time to mention it, that although I know the staff, the town staff, the rec staff, there's been so much work that has been put into that building, and they are making the best out of what they have. My concern is that we are going to find significant impacts to camps, to programming, and different events that we are typically have in town. My understanding is with ADA compliance that with the, it's not the daddy-daughter dance, it's special person dance, I think it's called, that the Park and Rec usually holds. If they were to hold it in the gym, as they typically do, that to go to the gym, you have to go downstairs. They could get into the side entrance and be ADA compliant. But once in that space, there is not an ADA compliant bathroom. So just my concern is that we as a council really need to either task the Park and Rec Commission or work with the subcommittee to transfer the role to the Park and Rec Commission and work with the Park and Rec Director to be able to really spearhead how are we going to move forward with a viable Park and Rec facility. So I'm not sure if this was the appropriate time or if it's better to talk about that later or maybe it's a future agenda item, but I'm going to be interested to see how the opening of parks or camp goes. Parking is another issue. I had reached out to our Park and Rec Director when I was still dropping my daughter off at TE, and I just drove by, and even the park and rec employees take up most of that front parking lot. Now, if you have hundreds of people dropping their kids off in the morning at 9 o'clock, it's going to be worse than PV, worse than PV's morning school drop-off. So even that is a concern, the parking, the drop-offs, the pickups. And I know Molly has a fantastic plan. She's, kind of mentioned the drop-off piece to it. But I don't think this is a long-term solution. We cannot let this be a long-term solution. I would love to see our director come up with a fantastic plan so that we could move forward with that alongside the Park and Rec Commission to really try to make something viable for our community, because I think will be interesting to see how this kind of rolls out. And I'm not really asking you a question, but just based on your question about ADA compliance, is that it sounds like, Molly went through some of the concerns, which I'm sure that you have worked on, bathrooms, that half of the bathrooms are working, half of them are not. Accessibility, the doors not being ADA accessible, parking as a general issue. And she was really, really complimentary of how much Parks has stepped up to help and how much time they have put into it, which probably has impacted other parts of our town because they haven't been able to put the time into other areas, but also the staff. And I'm beginning to, in my mind, equate our Park and Rec department like our schools, like our teachers. Like we have schools that are to the brim. They are packed classrooms, but our schools are fantastic. Our teachers are, because of our teachers, because of our schools. I think our park and rec will continue to be fantastic because of the people in the building and that are providing the programming, but they are not working with the best of options. So that's just my appeal to the council, that we really need to figure out a way to move this forward.
Thank you, Councilor Evans, and I just want to add to that. I think you have a good sight line there of what we're doing, and that was the same thing that I was talking about a few months back. However, what disturbs me more, Mr. Maniscalco, is that that is a town building, and as a town building, we're not ADA compliant. And tomorrow we have a capital projects meeting, and I would like to speak to our building folks, who would be Mr. Majors, that would be there. And I know there's money within the capital projects budget to do ADA compliance. I would like them to focus on our town building to make it ADA compliant. That would be my request. It's kind of an embarrassment. I'm not happy to hear that. So maybe we can address that tomorrow in Capitol and speak with Mr. Majors about that and see what it would take just to get it up to snuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we're faced with at this point is the fact that when the decision was made to move, well, when we were told we had to move Parks and Recreation, we were not given a very long timeline. To be very honest, in the municipal world, moving a department like had to be moved is, in an ideal world, probably multiple years in the making, and as a result, we had, probably 6-8 months. We were not able to find a permanent home for Parks and Recreation. We don't have some option like that available, but what we were able to do is move them to Old Orchard Hill with the intention of it being a temporary home, which goes to what Councilor Evans was saying. I think that the staff has done a monumental job at making it a temporary home, but I think, as Councilor Evans has pointed out, and even Mayor Pendleton has pointed out, there are some significant issues with that being a permanent location. And I think we need to have the conversation about where do we move Parks and Recreation, or what do we do for Parks and Recreation to make it a real permanent location that our residents deserve and enjoy, as well as the staff who work there deserve and enjoy. So how we get to that point at this red hot moment, I'm not 100% sure. I do know we have an item on the agenda later to fund a study looking at facilities. Maybe part of that is talked about then. But I think, to where we've gotten today, I think highlights the challenges that we have that we have to face moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Councilor Evans?
Thank you. Just in thinking about potentially, of how we might move forward, because we do have that subcommittee that was created, and they did a lot of work. There's a lot of information that was gathered. I'm wondering if there's a way that that subcommittee that could be transitioned to the Park and Rec Commission, because there was some discussion about that at the commission meeting, is kind of allowing that Park and Rec Commission to take on this piece, because they have started looking at surveying the town and communication with the town and outreach. Is that perhaps now that the commission has, or the committee, sorry, has gathered some information, has kind of fulfilled what we've asked of them, that maybe that committee can come and transition the duty, the job of the next steps to the commission. And maybe that's a meeting of the committee to kind of plan that transition. So I'm not sure what the council thinks of that. That committee is a council-created committee, so that is under our direction.
And moving forward, I think that's a discussion for the future, like next month, to figure out, because of doing the study, doing the plan, doing everything first. Because they did give our report, so they were kind of sunsetted at that time. They did give their report. So we can include, yes, some of that committee members onto the commission, but if we want to go with the commission moving forward, what's the best avenue? And that's conversation that's taken place within the quad board meeting, but also within the council meetings here. So yeah, Mr. Maniscalco will come up with a game plan on what the cost would be for the study and everything else in the best way to move forward, I think. Yeah. Okay, any other comments? Not seeing any?
Madam Mayor?
Mayor, sir, go ahead. Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would support, I think Councilor Evans has an interesting point, that The committee's already been sunsetted. They issued a report. There's a lot of information there. I think it makes sense to just pass it on to the Park and Rec Commission and let them take it on from here. So I would support that. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Not seeing any? Okay. And communication, we have that. And now public input for items on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? Going twice. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? Going a third time. Is there anyone from the public? Not seeing any, we will move on. Item number 8, Councilor Lopez, adoption of minutes of previous meetings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move for the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting of June 5th, 2023, the Town Council meeting minutes.
Do you want to read that? Be it resolved?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of June 5, 2023.
Now a second. Okay, any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Thank you. The motion carries. Item number 9. As you will see on the agenda, I have asked Counselor, now you're a Town Council member. I asked the Clerk of the Council, Poma, to list the meetings that took place in between council meetings. So that way we have the name and the meeting that took place for anyone to report on them if they have attended. If they do not have a report, that's fine. We can always watch the meetings, that's fine. And if you can't make a meeting, you can also always watch the meeting via G Media to find out what happened to be able to give a report. So just going down under communications, we have Councilor Lopez with the Historic District Commission. Do you have a report?
Nothing to report today.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor King, WPCA.
Nothing for the WPCA.
Thank you.
Inland Wetlands meeting is tomorrow.
Thank you. And there wasn't one in the past, in
No, 2
between
weeks.
meetings?
It's every other. It's
Okay.
1 and 3.
Counselor Kozakowski is not here, so he can't give a report. Counselor Kabowski, PBA.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple-
PBC.
A couple items of note. This week at the new Pleasant Valley, they've got the furniture, fixtures, and equipment moving in, and they begin the process now of moving the desks. They expect to have everything completed and in the new school by July 14th. The other item that was brought up by Dr. Carter in the meeting was that at the current time, they are planning a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new school. They're hoping it's going to be in August, more towards when school starts, and they'll be providing details now. They're still in the process of trying to work all of that out.
Great, thank you. And moving on, we have Counselor Evans, Park and Rec Commission.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
No, Councilor Kowalski, if I could, I know my kids asked the question, what is going to happen to the old PV? Yeah, I mean, I figure it's going to be destroyed, but do we have any
Yeah,
idea
it is.
when it
It's-
is going to be?
That's
or-
going to come down, and where the old school was now, I believe the plan is they're going to put up some ball fields.
Okay, thank you.
And Counselor Evans, Park and Rec Commission, please.
Thank you. So besides the information I had spoken about before with some concerns and trying to find them some facilities, there is, as always, a lot going on with the Park and Recs Department. The meeting was on 6/14. The South Windsor Walk and Wheelways are looking for younger folks to get involved. I guess most of the people involved in Walk and Wheelways are more of retirement age, and they're looking for people of a little younger generation to get involved with the 4th grade bike program. They want to make sure that it sustains with a new group to run it, as well as the high school bike program. It was previously rained out, but it's been rescheduled. They need volunteers for that as well. So if biking is your thing, please reach out to the Park and Rec Director or Walk and Wheelways.
Excuse me, Counselor Evans. Mr. Roberts, could we post that on the town signs that the Walk and Wheelways are looking for volunteers? Manager's
Yes, I
approval?
believe.
Thank you.
If somebody would send an email with what they want posted, we
Thank
can
you.
look at that.
In regards to 4th R, Director Hees reported last meeting that they opened the wait list. They are continuing to add families, and they are keeping it as no wait list. So if families continue to need before or after care, they're encouraged to reach out. They're also looking into other programming as well besides just the general before and after care. Pickleball League still has some availability. So if anyone is, that's cornhole. My apologies. Cornhole is looking for more participants, so there is availability that takes place Thursdays at Nevers. So they are looking for more members for that. As far as VMP, they are open and running. They did, based on public input, they opened later. They opened the weekend after Memorial Day weekend, and they will stay open later as well through Labor Day weekend. And that was just based on the community needs and requests and how often people came in. A lot of people didn't come into the pool until after that weekend, after Memorial Day. Meet me at the park on tomorrow at 1 o'clock. They're going to have the Boundless Playground handing out Dairy Queen ice cream to kick off the summer, and there's going to be more of those events to come. Farmers Market is open and running. It runs Saturdays from 9 to 12 through Saturday, October 7th. As mentioned before, the Park and Rec facility is open and running as well. They did change their hours as of June 5th. They are now open until 7 p.m. on Wednesdays and closing 1 p.m. on Fridays. So just like the town hall, to provide more accessibility to people outside of working hours. As the director did mention too, they are not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 program, so they do often have people there at other times as well. Also, the camps starting next week will be up and running, and they did open up Camp Trailblazer as well for ages 5 to 11. At the time that this was reported, there was still room for more campers to join. Also, she just wanted to make sure of some special events that were known. Concerts are going to be Thursday starting June 29th. There's going to be free Friday flicks, I think it is, 3 movies throughout the summer. There's also going to be one called a dive-in movie. It's going to be at VMP. On 7/23, July 23rd, there's going to be a veterans celebration at the pool at VMP. It is free admission for veterans and their families, I believe. And October 21st, they are looking to bring back the Haunted Torch Walk. Volunteers are needed for that, so if anyone is interested in getting involved with that, you can reach out to the Park and Rec director. Also, local businesses are needed to host scenes throughout the walk. Additionally, Parks has been very busy with VMP for Memorial Day Parade, the Buckland Barriers, the lacrosse tournaments at Rye Street. A new groundskeeper was hired. I only wrote down his first name, Jeff. Splash Pad, as mentioned. And they have been, as John mentioned, they've been very busy with the Old Orchard Hill, which they are calling New Recreation. Inside, outside, and everywhere. It's been very extensive, and he was very thankful for the work of everyone involved. And also the farmers market, they are putting together a gazebo that is going to be a shelter that will have some picnic tables under it. So as you can see, our Park and Rec is very busy. There's a lot going on. The commission itself is also planning to continue to work, as I mentioned, on community outreach, conversations, just getting an idea of what the community wants and needs for not only their master plan, but for looking at the facilities for the future for Park and Rec.
Well, we'll thank them the next time you go. They've been very busy. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Question, in regards to, you brought up the VMP. I noticed just when I was driving in, trucks coming down Ellington Road, so on and so forth. I don't know if they're going towards the bridge, but I did have a question. I wrote it down in regards to the parking space where all of the equipment and all the trucks are parking. We were under the impression, I believe as a council, that we weren't going to have any interruption of anything going on over there. But if we're losing parking space and that pool opens up, what's the deal? What's the plan for that?
So I actually went over there today because today was the beginning of construction for both Pleasant Valley Road as well as for the bridge. So I did drive over there today and look. There is some green equipment that is parked over there. That is the tree removal service for Pleasant Valley Road for the road project. That is the first equipment in and probably the first equipment out. So that should only be there for probably a week or so. I can tell you they were parking on grass, not on parking spots, and they were parked out of the way on the side of the parking lot. The operations of the pool as well as the park were not impacted by those pieces of equipment being parked there. Additionally, I think what residents will see is that there's some other equipment that's in the parking lot behind a fence that was put up kind of along the embankment on the road. What is going to happen is the way they're going to be constructing the bridge in order to bring it in on budget is they're going to need to use a crane. And they need to put that crane somewhere in order to be able to lift pieces of the bridge out and move it out of the way. In order to do that, they need to build a pad so that the crane can sit on top of that pad and maintain the weight associated with the bridge. So that pad will go kind of right next to the bridge in the corner of the parking lot, but should not be, again, there wasn't any parking in that area, but there was grass in that area. So there's that equipment that's coming in there as well. But I've talked to staff as early as this morning and was told that there should be no impact to the operations of the park. I would expect for the next few months, people will probably see impacts to traffic on Pleasant Valley Road. I think there may be times where it's difficult to get in or out of the park, but overall, I think as a community, in order to move this project forward, in order to see our bridge get replaced, and in order to ensure that we still have access to the park, because the worst case scenario is the bridge collapses and then we have a whole other problem on our hands. In order to do that, we may have to live with some of those smaller impacts for a temporary period of time. And those are only going to be temporary impacts.
Can I follow?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that's awesome. Is it possible, though, so there's two concerns that I'm thinking of. One is all the residents that live on that road and how they may be impacted because there's not, if my memory serves me correctly, there's not a, help me, Lord, there's not a sidewalk that's on this side of, right across the street from the park, first of all. So people can potentially, if they decided to, and this is just my city mindset, park on the grass, on a person's lawn. So I'm hoping that we can put some type of signage or something. It just occurred to me that potentially could happen, number one. And number two, if it's possible for us to put signage up similar to what you did for the town hall saying, please excuse us while we blah, 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 for those individuals that aren't familiar with what's about to go down. I mean, I saw, all of a sudden I started to see signs for detours all over the place, but there's nothing saying why. And so we could put up a sign that's, please excuse us, this is what we're doing, to your point, so that the bridge does not collapse. I think that would probably go a long way for our residents to say, oh, I had no idea this was happening. Now I understand why. So just those two pieces.
Deputy Mayor King, if I could just ask the question, Mr. Maniscalco, are you saying the folks that visit VMP, if they can't get in, they're going to be parking on people's lawns that live at Pleasant Valley and walking?
Well, I'm
Possibly?
suggesting, I know, yeah. I
So-
mean, somebody could literally say, oh, they're a resident, whatever, and not care. And I'm saying either if we could put up a line, I know back in the day, we used to put up cones.
Or no
people
parking
could
signs
park.
or
Yes.
something on
Something to
folks'
that
lawn
effect.
to prevent folks from parking on someone else's yard and walking to the pool?
That's all. Because then the street would be very congested
Right.
during that time of year, or if somebody has a visitor, because you can get a visiting pass. And, you know, so that I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
I need a
forward think.
clarification. Thank you. Counselor Evans?
Just a little fact check about the parking lot. As a very frequent user and a pass holder of the parking lot, that front parking lot is very, very utilized, as well as that grass completely around is typically parked in. I did drive by there this morning, which was before VMP hours given, so perhaps something changed from when I drove to when the pool opened. But there was significant machinery taking up that front parking lot, not just the grass area, not just the outer edge. It was across the parking lots, probably at least half of the parking lot. And I
Yeah.
also remember that we talked about the platform, the bed, whatever it has for the crane. My understanding was that was going to be on Pleasant Valley, on the road. Because what would you typically do if you didn't have VMP there? Where would you put that?
So, first of all, I was there at 4 o'clock today, and the equipment that was parked in the parking lot was gone by then, because that wasn't supposed to be there. That was a contractor error that was taken care of immediately. Second of all, the equipment that is left there is the tree removal equipment, which is the large majority of it. I think it was 5, maybe 6 pieces of large green equipment that should be out of there, actually working on the street tomorrow, and then back in the evening. Lastly, in terms of doing the pad, if we did not have VMP to put the pad in, we would have to purchase an easement from another resident next to the location where the work is occurring.
So I guess my concern is, first of all, the parking in the front parking lot. Long-term, how much of that is going to be taken away?
My understanding is it's only going to be that slope on the front, and then that
Along
little.
the road or along,
Along the road.
not the L, not along the stream, the brook there?
The slope along the Pleasant Valley Road, and then that little area by where the actual bridge is, where they're gonna build the pad to put the crane up.
So people do typically park there. They do park along all that grass area. Are we gonna make sure to have the back gate open? Because if parking is filled up in the front that much quicker, we're gonna need to make sure to have the back gate open consistently.
I can follow up to make sure that happens.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing that up.
Does the fire department know what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. Just my concern about getting a fire truck down there if needed. Sorry. You good? Good? Everybody good? Okay.
Also on here was Human Relations, which did not actually meet between these two meetings. It met on June 1st. But I will just report that they had their Come Together South Windsor event at VMP at the Pavilion on June 11th. And had great participation from the community and had pizza and ice cream, and it was a great event for the community.
Thank them, please, for us. And then we have, now moving on to item number 10, reports from committees. Councilor Paterna, Energy Committee.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just want to say the Energy Committee that was created in 2015 by former Mayor Anwar set a goal for all of our town electricity for town buildings, school buildings, and streetlights to be powered by solar energy. And I'm happy to announce that the Energy Committee has been working on this since 2015, and as of this spring, 2023, so we're 2 years ahead of schedule, all town buildings, all streetlights, all schools are now powered by solar energy, for electrical energy. So we're the
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're the first in the state to do this. Secondly, our next step now, we've just had a company come in and present a proposal to us about evaluating the installation of EV chargers in town. So we're evaluating what their prices are, what the construction will cost us. There's some ways that we can save money. For instance, if we do some trench digging instead of them, you can save almost 30% of the cost of installing EV chargers. But we're talking about something on town property right now to experiment with how successful they will be and perhaps expanding. We're looking at working with Evergreen Walk and see if they would also put EV chargers into the shopping area.
That's a
So that's where we're at.
That's a great
Thank you.
plan. Great plan. And Council Paterno, if I could ask you, didn't this come before planning and zoning about every new development to have a spot for EV chargers at one point?
The new zoning requirements, based on the size of the construction and the number of spaces in the lots, there will be a certain percentage where they have to at least put in the conduit. They don't have to put the chargers in right now, but the conduit has to be laid, this way it's there, and then it's much less expensive a year or two from now to put the chargers in instead of digging
Great.
up the parking lot.
Great. Thank you.
Okay?
And Councilor Kozakowski is not here, so we'll be moving on. And no other committees met, okay. Forgive me, get my glasses on. Item 11A1, or 11A1, yes, Councilor Kubaski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 11A1, resolution appointing Maria Basile as a member of the South Windsor Arts Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Maria Basile as a member of the South Windsor Arts Commission to fill a vacancy for a term ending December 31st, 2023.
Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. 11B, we have no second readings. 11C, there's no miscellaneous. Item number 12, unfinished business. There isn't any. Item 13. 13A is a discussion item waiving the bidding requirements for purchases of $5,000, $25,000. Mr. Maniscalco, please. And Councilor Gamble, I know this is your discussion item, so Mr. Maniscalco, if you could, please.
Thank you. Trying to look in my packet here for the documents. I'm hoping that they're here. We should have got you a report in your packet, which I'm not finding in mine. And maybe we didn't get it to you. But anyways, there's a report, there should be a report in your packet associated with this item from all our department heads, showing you kind of what was purchased between that $5,000 and $25,000 item. I'm not seeing it in the packet. If it's not there, we can maybe come back to this at our next meeting.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Do you have it?
Did we have it in our last packet? It was in the last packet.
In the last one?
Yeah.
All right. So we got you that report. I don't have a copy of it on hand, but those were the items that were purchased between the $5,000 and $25,000 threshold. Basically, if you have additional information you would need or other things you would require prior to passing a resolution to allow us to potentially waive bidding on those items for the next year, I'd be happy to get them together for you. Happy to answer any questions or concerns or thoughts.
Councilor Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. So just to reiterate again, there is still a procurement process that needs to be followed for all items that you are purchasing, whether or not they go out to bid or not. They still have to be on an approved vendor list or a approved vehicle to procure. So it's not like you can just go out to Amazon and just go buy stuff like that. You have to actually go through, there's a process that
Correct.
makes this all.
Yeah, so what we would do is anything under the $25,000 threshold, rather than putting a full-on bid packet together,
Right.
and posting it and taking the time and everything else associated with that, we would be seeking out multiple quotes from hopefully local vendors as much as possible, and then based upon what those quotes are, we would pick probably the lowest quote to move forward.
And so sometimes the benefit of doing this is for expediency, when things have to be done quickly. And for example, with the instance of the police gear, we really had to use a specific vendor that had the same, body armor and protective gear that was already in use. And so to go out to bid to possibly get, different kinds of gear just didn't make sense. So there are cases that this makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of how this came about. So
Correct.
I'm in favor of continuing this process based on the report that we saw last week. That does not look like there's any sort of, abusing of this $25,000 thing, and it only has benefits in my eyes, so I appreciate your effort on this.
Thank you, Councilor Gamble. Mr. Maniscalco, should we not have in a resolution for us to approve, for you to authorize you to sign that or something at our next meeting, maybe?
I think at your next meeting, we would probably look for a resolution to be on here for that.
Okay, because I remember us signing it before, and we had a resolution that went with that to authorize the waiving of that. So if we could do that at our next meeting,
Correct.
great. Councilor Evans.
Thank you. So I looked in my packet of information from last meeting, and I did not find that list. Was
Okay.
it something that was left on the desk, because I was not at the last meeting?
It should have been in your packet. I'll make sure you get a copy
Right, can
again.
you email that
Yeah.
to us for the next meeting? My other question, or kind of reminder, is like we equated this to, this is from our charter, I believe, right? That was written in 50s, 60s?
68.
And if you were to look at the cost of something at that point and compare it to today's cost, like we're just kind of matching up the times and kind of getting with more current values.
Correct. The other item too that I think is important, given inflation, given the inflation that we've seen, what we're experiencing from contractors when you're trying to bid out something for, let's just say it's $6,000 to be consistent with the charter requirement. What we're finding happens is individual contractors are not interested in bidding on items that are that small, because the bidding requirements do take a significant amount of work, and there's a lot of writing involved and submissions and things of that nature. And what we've actually found is we're not getting any bids as a result on certain items. So I think the quote process is a little bit more efficient. It's easier for contractors, it's easier for town staff, and it only benefits residents in the end.
And my other question is, I would imagine for this threshold, we do not look into using project labor agreements. Have we ever, or do we have a threshold at which we do require that when using the bidding process?
Yeah, so the state does have requirements for municipalities to use, the term is escaping me, but the project labor agreement, similar to like what you're talking about. There is a dollar threshold. I want to say it's $100,000 or $200,000 for those projects.
again?
$100,000 or $200,000 project thresholds
That we must use it?
that we
PLA?
must use them. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any, do you think you could get us information on that, or just?
Yeah, I can look up what the statute is and get you
Okay,
that.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. And moving on, we have Councilor Paterno, 13B.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution approving a refund of taxes to two residents, the total of said refunds being $1,059.38. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of taxes to two South Windsor residents, the total of said refunds being $1,059.38, and as more fully described in attached Exhibit A.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Any discussion, first of all? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the Connecticut Department of Transportation Local Bridge Program supplemental application for the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge over the Podunk River Bridge, number 04156, state project number 9132-9001. Whereas the town of South Windsor is eligible to receive a grant from the State of Connecticut Local Bridge Program to fund up to 50% of the eligible product costs for the replacement of the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge over the Podunk River. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, MPA, to sign the local bridge program supplemental application and any associated agreements between the state of Connecticut and the town of South Windsor for the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge over the Podunk River Bridge, number 04156.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Maniscalco, I believe we were talking about value engineering, wasn't the cost that came in for this significantly higher than what was budgeted for, and we were going to look to reduce to try to get it closer to the number?
Correct. I believe at our last meeting, I think I reported to you that we were able to cut $400,000 or $500,000 out. I don't remember the exact number on the top of my head. So we've cut that. I think we were about 800 over. So we're getting it down. We're still waiting on hearing back from the state of Connecticut for if they're going to increase their reimbursement rate, which this is just what they had promised us before. We're still working on getting that increase. And then we also have some additional contingency funds. So in conversations I've had with Public Works, they're fairly confident that we should be able to bring this in on budget.
So you're saying the state might give us a higher percentage, or they will
That's
give us
so-
the same percentage on the higher number?
The same percentage on a higher number.
So then that would bring our overage to like the $200,000 to $250,000. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we're getting better.
very
We're getting
good.
there.
You're getting closer. Very good.
We've made big strides.
Thank you. And there's still possibly good news to come?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, Counselor Paterno, do you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, thank you. We're now going to suspend the regular town council meeting for a public hearing. And Ms. Poma, I have this for you here, please. If you could come and get this, and then you can read.
I already have one.
This is the original.
No, it's not, Scott.
I got nervous. Okay, go ahead.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, June 9, 2023, legal ad, Town of South Windsor. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council has set Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the updated master plan from the Strategic Planning Committee, dated at South Windsor, Connecticut, this 9th day of June, 2023, attested to by Amanda Poma, Clerk of the Council.
Thank you, Ms. Poma. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council during this public hearing concerning the strategic master plan for the town? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council during the public hearing here? Not seeing anyone, I'll close the public hearing. And as a straw vote, non-scientific vote, is there anyone in favor in the public for this? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone? One? Okay. Is there anyone against it? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you. Public hearing is now closed. Okay, moving on. We are now to calling the regular meeting back to order here. 13D, please. Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution approving the transfer of $100,000 from the Public Works account to the Building Feasibility Capital Project account. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a transfer of funds from the Public Works account to the Building Feasibility Capital Project account to complete a study on town buildings and potential future capital project needs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Absolutely, Councilor Gamble.
It's my last meeting. I'm going to take advantage of every last second.
You what?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's what I said.
Sure, okay, thank you.
So we had touched upon this earlier in the meeting, and I think a good idea would be to get more information about what the charge of this study would be so that we know what we're getting for $100,000 as opposed to just saying complete a study. I would like to know what would be included in the study, what would not be included in the study, what would be the scope of the study, the project needs. So I think it warrants a little bit more detail before we just transfer $100,000 for a study. My opinion.
So according to Mr. Major, the total cost of this study is probably going to be more to the tune of around $150,000. The $100,000 that you're transferring here is the most that we can actually transfer from within the existing budget from department to department. The scope of the study is to look at all the town facilities, whether it's schools, libraries, firehouses, town hall, all the facilities that we do have, to kind of get us a good benchmark as to, you know, age of useful, or, you know, where we are with the useful life of things, the age of things, conditions of things, in order to start laying out a roadmap for how we're going to move forward in addressing both maintenance as well as replacement of our town infrastructure, particularly facilities. So that's the general big picture scope of what we're looking at. We would need to, of course, put this out to bid and, you know, get the appropriate firm to come in and conduct the study, but that's the general idea.
Mr. Maniscalco, if I may. With meeting with Capital Projects and having a discussion about our facilities, Capital Projects has many projects on their list, $40 million worth of projects. However, the items aren't broken down or followed through based off of maintenance or replacement schedule. So it has been discussed in Capital Projects, which, because I sit there and I go, why do we need a new boiler this year? How do we know? But we have to start somewhere and look at what we have in all of our structures.
Yeah, I agree.
When were the windows replaced? When was the boiler replaced? When was the roof replaced? What is the replacement, repair schedule of each structure? So that's what capital is trying to work towards. So to get us to that spot where we have the whole game plan laid out for our infrastructures, we need to have a study for someone to come in and look at everything of every building. They're gonna get, we had a study done 10 years ago, so they have a good jump start. So we have something to hand over to whatever company does this. And then we'll get a good feel of where we are with all of our infrastructure and moving forward. How many years does that roof last? 25 years. It needs to replace X, Y, and Z out. So we can then have a maintenance fund, maintenance repair fund, if you will. So we know 25 years out, we have to replace the roof on Fire Company 1 because it was just put on. I'm just saying hypothetically 25 years because I'm not a roofer. But I'm just saying, but we have it somewhere in the system, and capital knows when something needs to be replaced. So they can financially plan for the future of the maintenance and replacement of whatever we have within inside of our structures.
So if this was done 10 years ago, wouldn't this be something that we would keep up to date so that we could know these things? I mean, they give us the report and then we go, oh, okay, thank you for the report. And so now we'll take these steps to remediate and be planful for keeping our buildings up to date. So we've done that work before. And so I get it, that makes sense to do a study. But my second question is, after I heard you speaking, is the most we can actually transfer is $100,000, but you said it's probably going to come in closer to $150,000. So is there going to be another ask in like a few months for the extra 50, or how does that extra 50 get funded?
Well, we still have some other transfers that we'd need to do to end out the fiscal year, so we have to finish all that out, and the plan is to hopefully get that other 50 out of there. So.
From the same department to department, or?
Not Public Works, probably a different department.
Okay. I just didn't want to like try to get around stuff by just splitting up the 150 into
Oh,
two
no,
asks.
yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Gamble. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. 13E, Councilor Kubasky, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 13E, resolution accepting the resignation of Jamie Gamble from the South Windsor Town Council. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Jamie Gamble from the South Windsor Town Council effective June 20th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Jamie Gamble for the time he has dedicated to serving the community of South Windsor by his participation on the Town Council.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Absolutely, there's going to be discussion. Councilor Kubasky, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say I've served with Counselor Gamble now here on the council for a couple of years, and I think 2 terms on the Board of Education. It truly has been an honor and a privilege to serve with him. He has made a couple of the Board of Education longer meetings a little bit more palatable as we sat next to each other. And I just want to thank him for his time and service and his commitment to the town. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kubowski. Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Gamble, for all your hard work on the town council. I respect you immensely. You're always asking the right questions and making sure that the council is aware of all the issues involved in any subject matter, so I appreciate your work. And I noticed that your resignation is effective 11:59. Could we extend the meeting to 11:58 so we make sure he stays as long as possible?
Good one, good
Thank
call.
you. Thank you, Councilor Gamble.
Deputy Mayor King, please.
So for me, I just wanted to say, in a world that is heavily politicized, sometimes even in our own town, heavily politicized, I appreciate the fact that even though we might not have always agreed, you definitely extended meetings longer than I would have liked with your questions. But I knew that your questions were always in the best interest of the town. And again, while we might not have always agreed, I always respected that. And so while I was very upset when I saw it, I understand that everybody has to do what's best for them and their family, and I appreciated working with you. And I hope that others from your party would take that into consideration, that when we work together as a council, we work together as a council. We may not always agree, but we work together as a council. And so I hope that whoever comes to take your spot recognizes that, because if they don't, I will be happy to remind them that that's what we're here for, is to work together. So while I'm sorry to see you go, I appreciate the fact that we were able to work together. So, my man. Thank you very much. You're welcome, sir.
Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, me too. Would like to thank you for all the volunteering that you have done. Your questions, like it has been said, they were very detail-oriented. I've learned a lot from your reasoning and the answers to your questions. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Councilor Lopez. Councilor Evans.
Thank you for the time that we've served together. I know that we have both served for a while, but this is the first time that we have aligned and been on the same, serving on the same council or board. So I really appreciate the conversations we've had at council meetings, outside of council meetings, on committees, really the work that you have done and your best interest in your commitment to the community, all of the questions that you have asked. Often things that I haven't thought of myself that I appreciate when you bring up. And I really just hope that you'll continue to find ways to, stay involved. There's plenty of ways we can find to keep you busy, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Save the best for last. Of me. Just want to say it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure, working with you, helping you, guiding you, teaching you, because this is your first year on the council. So I'm glad that I was an asset to you to help you, and you were an asset with all your input that you've given to this council. I thank you for that. I also want to say thank you for the mutual respect that you have given to everyone on this council, and that you've given us the opportunity to give that to you too, and working together respectfully with this council. I wish you all the best in the future with whatever you choose to do, and thank you for your time and your energy and your effort with this council and doing the best for South Windsor. Good luck, Councilor Gamble. Thank you. And now with that said, all those in favor? Aye. See you later. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Now we're moving on to, get my glasses on. But you still are still 11:59, so we will find you. Okay, moving on, we have the item F, 13F, discussion item, the updates on the housing and warehouse moratorium. If we can make a motion to postpone that to the July 3rd meeting, Mr. Maniscalco, since Michelle Leip, and it's a postponement. If someone would like to make a motion to postpone that,
Yes,
please.
so moved.
Is there a
Postpone that.
second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Yes, sir.
In light of, because this was unexpected that she would not be here today, and I understand the executive that she's in. However, we need someone to come and have this. I don't want something else to pop up, because this was, yeah, we need somebody to come. So if not her, somebody needs to report on July 3rd. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. And now we're moving on to passage of ordinance. We don't have any. Item 15 is public input for any matter that is not on the agenda. Public input for any other matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any items. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the council, anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matters that's not on the agenda? Sir, please approach the lectern, and on the base of the microphone is a little button that will turn red, and please state your name and address.
My name is Bruce Bardo, and I live at 24 Lavender Lane. I'm here to comment on the letter dated May 25th from the town manager about the condominium reimbursements from the town of South Windsor. I'm the president of the T-Berry Estates Homeowners Association Board of Directors. We have 3 other members from our board here. Our board of directors received the above referenced letter that was addressed to our bookkeeper. The letter was, in quote, formal notification that condominium reimbursements for snow, streetlights, and fire hydrants from the town of South Windsor will end effective July 1st, 2023. Now, our development, T-Berry Estates, is an over 55 community of 25 standalone homes. The owners of the homes own the footprint of the house. The land, the common areas, the clubhouse are owned by the association. Last year, we received a reimbursement of approximately $1,200 from the town. This amount represented a small fraction of the amount that our association pays for snow removal, electricity for the streetlights, and the maintenance and the water for the fire hydrants. Our 25 homeowners, however, pay significant property taxes to the town of South Windsor, and our association pays significant property taxes on the clubhouse and the common areas. So when our board of directors received this letter, we were shocked, mainly because the amount is such a small amount. And, you know, this is in comparison to the high amount of taxes that we pay and the high amount of the expenses that our association pays out for these items. In addition, being an over 55 development, the 25 houses don't send any children into the South Windsor school system. So our board is asking for the town of South Windsor to reconsider this decision to end the condominium reimbursements.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter that's not on the agenda? Going twice, okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm sorry to see that Councilor Gamble is resigning from the council. I would like to thank Mr. Gamble for his service to the town of South Windsor and would like to wish him the best and to please keep serving the community in another fashion. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Ms. Dolnicki. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council concerning any matters not on the agenda? Going one more time, anyone from the public? Not seeing any. We'll move on to item 16, which is communications from the council. Oh, sir,
No, I'm for 16.
you're for 16.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, now it is my turn. I want to thank each and every one of you for being such good counselors alongside me for this almost 2 years. It's funny, you go into a situation not knowing what to expect. thinking you know one thing, and then when you show up and start doing the work of the council, you know, you look across the table at, you know, at your peers and your fellow councilors, and you're like, you're just there to do a job, right? And I felt like every time we got together, we were always working in the best interest of South Windsor. It was a pleasure working with each and every one of you, learning from each and every one of you, understanding each of your perspectives. Even Phil's was, you know, very good to learn from you, Phil. I appreciate all the time we spent on Board of Ed together. You know, when you went to PBC, for the many years that I've been working in and around and close to all of you, this last year and a half have been really special for me. So I thank each and every one of you. And I will probably still be serving at some capacity, just not at the council level. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilor Campbell. I'd just like to announce that I received a thank you letter, a thank you card from the Havens family, from Eddie Havens Jr., on the fruit basket that was sent to the business for the employees, and also the flowers that were sent to past Mayor Eddie Havens' funeral from the council. So that was my communication, and I think that's it. And now we'll move into executive session. Although we may not do this in that order, I believe we can handle B first, and then.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So move that we go into executive session to discuss 17B first, which is a personal issue, performance evaluation of Clerk of the Council, Amanda Poma. And then if Ms. Light does come, that we also include 17A, just for the record, which are the pending claims or pending litigation related to the Geisler Supermarket. I'd like to invite the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, as well as the assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts, and any other appropriate personnel deemed necessary. So moved.
Okay, I just want to correct that. Ms. Light will not be attending the executive session with us.
So-
But I would like to state, you did invite Ms. Poma, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Yeah? Aye. Okay. We will be adjourning from executive session. So good night, everyone. Enjoy the summer here in South Windsor.